Tank, we're back, mate. How have you been?
It's been a while, mate. It's been a while. I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You're looking great. You got a bit of a tan going on there.
Just come back from Turkey, haven't I?
Oh, look at this, living the life.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice, mate. Something changed. First time I've been to Turkey.
Yeah, I have to say, mate, the amount of comments we have on the Twitter profile asking, "Where's Tank? Why isn't he on Twitter?" Can you give everyone a little bit of background as to why you've not been on Twitter for a while?
Well, I made a passing comment, which I think it was the right comment, where they called Boris Johnson a cunt, which has been proven right. And Twitter have banned me for life for that comment. And I
Is it a
think that,
life job? Is it a life job? Yeah.
well, I mean, I've not really tried to get it back. It is what it is, mate. You know, it's just one of them where I tried. And he said, no, I committed a hate crime.
Jesus.
I've said much worse on Twitter, by the way, than that.
I was gonna say, yeah, I could probably reel off about 20 more instances in a week of what
Honestly,
you've said that's worse than that.
I've called good mates on Twitter a lot worse than what I call BJ.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to be fair, mate, of all the things to be banned off Twitter for, I think that should be a medal of honor at this stage.
It should be. I was going to get hold of Elon Musk and ask him, you know, we stuck over, can I have it back, but I don't think I got much
I'll
chance.
put a word in. I'll put a word in for you, mate. I'll get it sorted. And how's things going? Keeping yourself busy with the horses?
Yeah, the horses are going really well, mate. I had a nice winner at Southern on Friday. Long story. I didn't even get there, missed the race. Me card, I was charging me card, and it was just a shit show on Friday, honestly, mate. And my
Yeah,
car's still stuck at the service station, but the horses are going well for me, mate. I'm enjoying it.
Glad to hear it. And for those listening that are probably wondering where Christy is, he was due to be on tonight, but he's got his folks over. They're coming to visit him in America for the first time in over 2 years. So he's spending a bit of quality time with his folks, and he will be back next week. So, Al, me and you talking about a Merseyside derby without Christy here to mediate. What could potentially go wrong?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's let's be honest. Look, big game at the weekend, Liverpool versus Everton. There's been a hell of a lot made of the game in the news. The fallout from it has nearly been as entertaining as the game itself. What, first of all, before we dive into some of the main talking points, what did you make of the game?
It was the type of game I thought it would be. You know, Everton were never going to come out and play, which they can't play expansive football anyway, because, you know, they're a dreadful side. There's no two ways about that. They're in the position with in because they deserve to be. But they were never going to come out and play open football. But I was a little bit disappointed in how they were. I just felt there was a lot of cheating going on from Everton. Like Richarlison, honestly, it was actually come to the stage where I was thinking, I've got to turn this off because I can't stand watching players like him. He's just a cheat. He's a cheat on the pitch, and he cheats Everton for me as well, because he's not someone who put the full shift in for that club when they need it. But I was watching some of his stuff going around, and he gets his mate boot because he volleys Fabinho, and you're just like, it was a poor game, if I'm being honest. I just thought it was kind of one of them. I was speaking to the mate of mine today, and he was like, "Do you know what? I hope they don't go down because you missed the derbies." And I was like, "Really?" Because for me, the derbies at the minute are the two worst games of the season.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was the same. I was the same. I think going into that match. Look, like yourself, you know, growing up a Red, the biggest game for me as a kid growing up was Liverpool Everton, and probably just because I was surrounded by Blues, and Liverpool were terrible at derbies when I was a kid. So it meant more because I'd get more abuse. Whereas over the years and me moving to Ireland now, it's the bigger game is Liverpool versus Manchester United. Always has been, and it's been a weird one. It's not. I've never really hated Everton. You know, they're just Everton. You know, but I think going into this game, I was kind of saying to myself, look, I want them to stay up. You know, 2 big games a season. You know, brings the city together. I can wind up my cousins. They can wind up me. But then, having seen how that game panned out and the nonsense after it and the nonsense during it, I think I'd actually be happy to see them go down at this stage.
I mean, it's just a nothing game at the minute, because like when I was growing, I'm a bit older than you, Jamie, and I was growing up with the likes of, you know, your Peter Reeds in the Everton side and your Graham Sharp, and they were a proper side, and Liverpool were a proper side, and they were going toe to toe, and you had 2 teams who'd kick lumps out of each other, but had quality as well, and the games were. They were open, they were attacking, they were like, wow, what a game of football that was. Now, I mean, I watched some of the comments from the likes of Jamie Carragher last night, and I was quite shocked what he said when he was like, what I will say is, where's that Everton side been all season? And I'm like, But what does that mean? If Everton play like that till the end of the season, Everton will get relegated because they never wanted to attack. They played in 2 banks of 5, basically 11 men behind the ball. If Everton go and play like that against Watford away, they're going to get beat. Well, they're certainly not going to win. They're not going to win the game.
Yeah, I found it strange, to be honest. I think what I've tried to take from a lot of the comments, because look, like yourself, I love the dark arts, right? And a lot has been made about Everton's approach to the game. You know, they, in my eyes, tried to replicate maybe something that Chelsea had done, you know, to success with Jose Mourinho when he was manager. Slow the game down, try to quieten the crowd, get us frustrated, make our play disjointed, and basically, for want of a better word, sort of scum the way through a 90-minute game and hope for the best. Now, for me, this is an Everton team that's quite expensive in terms of the money that they've spent on it. You know, there's footballers in that team. I think a little bit too much has been made on Everton's approach. They had an outball of Anthony Gordon running in a straight line fast, which got them up the pitch a couple of times. But other than that, I thought it was more that Liverpool didn't show up in the first half. They didn't move the ball particularly well. They played quite safe, square passes. But in the second half, you know, a football match is 90 minutes long. Liverpool turned up the heat, moved the ball properly. They had direct runners in behind, and it was very difficult for Everton. Do you think, have you been surprised by the response in the media towards the game itself?
I just think, every time I see someone talking about it, they were like, it was kind of like, if Everton play like that to the end of the season, they'd be okay. And I'm like, they won't. Because they won't win a game of football playing like that. It's okay, Anthony Gordon going down. And look, I do like that boy. He's a good player. He's a talented boy. He's got a little bit of that diving into his game, which needs to come out of his game. But he's a threat. But you took him out of that Everton side. There was actually zero threat from them at all. I mean, I seen a stat here. I don't know whether we sent it into the WhatsApp group of Alan. He had 6 passes, 2 complete, and 2 of them were from the kickoff. So he passed the ball 6 times in the game, give it away 4 times. So in my opinion, he's had 100% pass unsuccess rate, if you know what I mean. His only successful pass what found to play was the kickoff.
Yeah.
Now, come on, this is the Premier League. This is the Premier League. These are Premier League players, supposedly.
Yeah, look, there's been some interesting stats. Like Everton, you know, come out, I think, with one of the lowest record stats in terms of ball possession. I think it was 18%. I mean, I don't read too much into that because, look, if you use it effectively and you go long and you're creating chances, that's not too much of an issue. For me, it was more around the stalling of the play, you know, the time wasting. You know, and even when Everton did get the ball, it's not even like they tried to play. I seen them just hockeying the ball into touch. Look, there's many ways to skin a cat. I just think for the players that Everton have, they've got more to offer. You know, and you mentioned Anthony Gordon there. I have to say, I think he looks a great player, but the big thing that's come out of that game now is, was it a penalty? What are your thoughts? Do you think it was a penalty?
But he cost himself a penalty. It doesn't matter, you know, in my opinion, there's a little bit of a touch there, and he's gone down easy again. And it's one of them where, and this is not me with my Liverpool hat on, I think you'd be delighted if you got it.
I can't imagine you wearing a Liverpool hat, mate.
No, it won't fit my head. But I'm looking at it, and if that was Liverpool and we got a penalty, you'd be like, we were a bit lucky there. Do you know what I mean? And if you didn't get it, you'd be like, well, I can understand why they didn't get it. But the problem with Anthony Gordon is diving in to try and win a free kick and a penalty before that. That's cost them. So his own cheating has cost them. So I have no sympathy for them in that way because, you know, you can't dive like you did for that first penalty. And it's in the referee's mind, and the ref's like, you know, it's going to cost them further down the line. And his diving could potentially cost everything going down. Because say, for instance, I think they've got Arsenal away in the last game of the season, and he gets brought down in the box. The referee's going to go, no, this is what this kid does.
Is it a little bit of Mo Salah syndrome in that Mo Salah in some games tends to be assaulted and he still won't get a penalty? And there's this preconception that Mo Salah is a diver. Do you think it's a little bit of that?
It is because, as you say, Mo Salah, I think it goes back 2 seasons with Salah when he did go down easily a couple of times. Granted, yes, he did. But now I've seen Mo Salah get strangled from a left back from behind and he's wrestling him through to the floor and he doesn't get a free kick. And it does happen. Referees, you know, I know they might try and claim they don't, but they do. They psychologically just go, this kid dives non-stop. You know, it's not a penalty. He's dived again. And unless it's clear and obvious.
One of the things that's probably struck me, I think, and I suppose we'll get on to Liverpool in a second, I've been surprised a little bit by the response of Everton, after the game. I don't know whether it's a Lampard thing. I mean, I had concerns, if you will, a Liverpool fan having concerns about Everton, but when the appointment was made, I looked at it and thought, I'm not sure he's the man for what Everton need at the moment. And he just seems to have this book of excuses that he rolls out, when something goes wrong. He loves an old excuse. And Everton's response, they've lodged an official complaint now regarding the penalty incidents. Lampard was talking about the Mane incidents and how Liverpool could have potentially had players sent off, maybe conveniently forgetting that Richarlison potentially could have been sent off as well. I just feel like there's a little bit of a blame culture with Frank Lampard. And if Everton put half the effort they do as to trying to do the dark arts and moan about things as to they keeping the ball and trying to create, they'd be in a much better position than they are.
I tell you, Frank Lampard needs to focus more on the training pitch than all his excuses. His excuses now are becoming boring to me. Frank Lampard shouldn't be the Everton manager. For me, if Frank Lampard's getting a job, he's a project manager. He's someone where you come in and say, this is the project. You've got 3 years. With a club who's like possibly what Everton are, but they're not at the minute, like a mid-table club, and we've got a project. We want a style of play from you. We want you to bring the youth players through, and you've got this kind of budget. That's the type of manager I think Frank Lampard is. Basically, what he's done at Chelsea. Chelsea wasn't expected to do anything because they had the embargo on them, and his mantra was to get a set way of playing, win games, bring the youth through because we can't sign anyone. And I thought he'd done that okay at Chelsea. Frank Lampard, for me, is the last person what you should put in charge of a club who's fighting for their lives. Because I don't think he's exceptional at all. In fact, I know he's not exceptional at organisation and coaching. I know people who play for Derby County who had done me coaching badges with, and they actually played under him. And he done absolutely nothing. It was Jody Morris who done all of the coaching and the shape and, the set plays and everything. So he's not got Jody Morris with him, who's by all accounts is a fantastic coach. He's not gone with him. So I just think this role for Everton really could bite them because he is not the man. Everton might think I'm taking the piss here, but they need a Sam Allardyce who's going to come in and go, right, we're banks of 4 and we lit on the break. They've got a structure and a way of playing and they stick to that way of playing. Sam Allardyce would have kept Everton in the league. I don't think Frank Lampard's got the capabilities on the training pitch to keep them in the league.
I've seen an interesting stat an interesting tweet today from Joe Wayman on Twitter, and he said before Lampard took charge of his first game, Everton was 16th, 4 points above the relegation zone, with games in hand on all clubs below them, bar Burnley. They're now 18th, 2 points behind Burnley, with 1 game in hand. Their goals per game, shots, XG, and touches in the opposition box are all down. That is not the type of trend that you want to see since a new manager has come in. And when you look at Everton's fixtures list, could they go down, Tank?
Oh, listen, I think they're down.
Really?
I was speaking to the mate of mine. I think they're down. When you look at Burnley, Burnley's next 2 fixtures are Watford, and I can't think of the other one. Might be Palace, possibly. I can't think of the other one. So,
winnable
Burnley,
game, though.
For me, one of them's winnable. I can't think of the teammate. It'll come to you. One of them's winnable, and the other one I thought they could nick a point there. But you look at Burnley's form since Sean Dyche has left. They should have beat West Ham away. They missed a penalty to go 2-0 up. They drew 1-1. They've beat Southampton and they've beat Wolves. They've got 7 points from the last 3 games. Now, I'm looking at Burnley's next 2 games and think, if they get 2 draws out of them 2 games, the 4 points ahead of Everton, can you see Everton getting anything against Chelsea or Leicester, realistically?
No.
So then what you've got to look at, Jamie, is there's 3 games left and Burnley potentially, if Burnley only draw them 2 games, the 4 points ahead of Everton with a slightly better goal difference with 3 games left. Everton need to win 2 of them games and Burnley win none of the 3 to get above Burnley. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, especially when you're baking. If you look at Everton's away record as well, exactly. It doesn't exactly inspire confidence. But you look at the squad, the money they've spent. I don't like the phrase "too good to go down," but that would be a massive, massive shock to the system if Everton get this badly wrong and go down.
It will be, but I'm looking at, I looked at Michael Keane yesterday, and there was times in the second half, I don't know whether you remember, where he actually had time in the ball and he just volleyed it out of play into the stand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're a £50 million centre half. You paid £50 million for him. There's no one round him. And he's just booming it into the stand. And I'm thinking, what even is that? What is that? Yeah. What part of a manager or a coaching staff could just say, yeah, I can accept that? If I was on the touchline there, I'd have dragged them off and said, what the fuck are you doing? We're 1-0 down, you're putting it in the stand.
Yeah. Again, I said it at the start. I think for me, it just comes down to game plan. And if you've basically set out your stall, we don't need the ball. Just keep the ball as far away from our goal as possible and see if we can get through 90 minutes. And if we can hit Anthony Gordon on the break, Everton, for me, yesterday looked like a team that are battling relegation. And I actually thought it was one of the worst visiting team performances that I've seen at Anfield in a very long time. So be interesting to see how it all pans out. So Liverpool, Tank. This is a topic we obviously catch up about a lot. There's a lot of talk about the quadruple, which I'll be honest, as a Liverpool fan, I'm not overly enthusiastic about. I just think it's unrealistic to think that Liverpool can go on to win 4 trophies, whilst it's still be impossible at this moment in time. I honestly, if I'm a betting man, probably would bet against it just because of the law of averages. It would be some effort. Where do you rank this Liverpool team in terms of what they're doing this season?
In the history of Liverpool or in football?
You pick, mate. I suppose, there's a lot of talk about it being the best Liverpool team ever. But I think, there's a lot of narratives in the media around the likes of City and Liverpool and the rivalry that it's brought. Is it the best ever? How good is this sort of Liverpool and City team against the greats of the Premier League era? Where would you pit them against the others?
For me, this is the best Liverpool shield I've ever seen in my lifetime. By a long shot. And the stats and the points tally and everything else tell you it has to be. As regarding the best team currently, I think this is the best team in world football as it stands now. Man City, and I've been speaking to the Palaman, who, I went to races with him on Fridays, a Man City season ticket holder, and he's actually coming round to the fact that we are a better side. And the reason why I think we're a better team than City now is we've got many ways to win a game. We didn't play well yesterday. And we win ugly. We win unbelievable. We can blow teams away. We can defend away from home for 60 minutes and then just counter-attack and hit someone. And now, I don't see any other team in world football that can win in every single way you can win a football match than Liverpool. If you want to try and take us on in power, we'll outpower you. If you want to try and play expansive football, we'll pick you off and destroy you. If you want to come and put 2 brick walls in, we'll knock it down eventually, as Everton found out yesterday. Now, for Man City, we were a phenomenal side. If Man City can't pass you off the park and, tippy-tappy football and score, they do, I'm not saying they struggle because they don't drop a lot of points, but you can beat Man City in other ways, where I just think Liverpool can just do every way of winning the game. And I think this is the 2 greatest club sides that's ever played football in this country, in my opinion. And they're going toe-to-toe. But I just sense the tide is slowly turning towards Liverpool as being the elite of the elite.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I look at the Premier League and do you know what I think it'll boil down to? And again, when I do these podcasts, I try not to be too much of a Liverpool fan. You do that job perfectly for the both of us, mate. So I'll try to take my Liverpool hat off. I look at it and I think, I don't think City will drop many points. I don't think Liverpool will drop many points either. I think what could be the big swing in this Premier League race is City in Europe.
Exactly.
How big or how taxing will that Madrid game be on the legs? I think if you are Pep Guardiola, I think his priority is the Champions League rather than the Premier League. And I think if there's decisions that have to be made to prioritize that, he will do it. So
absolutely.
I think that could be the swing. Whereas for Liverpool at this moment in time, and this feels very weird saying this, I actually think Liverpool have a deeper squad than Manchester City. You could argue start versus starting 11s versus starting 11s, but if you're looking at the depth of the bench And I think you've got to tip your hat to Jurgen Klopp and the medical staff for managing Liverpool's minutes very well, because Liverpool have got 4, 5, 6 players, if not more. I mean, you've got players that are getting left out of the matchday squad that could easily impact games. The likes of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Taki Minamino, Harvey Elliott aren't gotten stripped on a match day. I think Liverpool's ability to rotate and impact games from the bench could put them in a strong position. I just think it's going to boil down to what impact does this Champions League run have? And if you were a betting man, Tank, what do you think City would prioritise?
It's not even a debate, mate, in my opinion. For Man City, the fantastic club is what they are, and the achievements, what they got, how they got there is irrelevant. They've had more money than anyone, which, listen, I've never been like one to slag them off for that, because I would love Liverpool owners to say, we've got any amount of money, you go and do what you do. But Liverpool's done it a different way. So I'll never knock City for doing that. Man City, to become the elite of the elite alongside your United's, what United's done in the past, your Liverpools and your Chelsea's, they have to win the Champions League. They have to. It's no point going to the semi-final each year. You have to win that Champions League. I think tomorrow's Real Madrid game, Jamie, will have a huge impact of where the league title goes. I think tomorrow is absolutely huge. And the reason for that, if Man City are 3-0 up against Real Madrid for the second leg, I think it'll have an impact on the sides what he plays. If it's 1-0 and he's got to go to Madrid, I think that he will leave 5 or 6 players out of the weekend's game for the following week's fixtures at Real Madrid away. I think he has to do that, because he will prioritise the Champions League. 110% he'll prioritise it.
It's nearly like when you look at what happened in the FA Cup. Liverpool obviously were able to, they put in a great performance against Benfica first time around, which meant that they could nearly put out a League Cup side in the Champions League second leg. And what that meant is, for the FA Cup tie, they were bouncing into that with nearly a fully fit squad, whereas City were bruised, battered, wounded, and stitched up after a tough game against Atletico. One final thing before we move on to the race for top 4, and a couple of mentions for friends of old for you, Tank, who I know you're keen to discuss, particularly a man from Manchester who we'll come to in a minute. Rivalries, because I've been dying to have this conversation with someone, because there was a lot made on Twitter, in the news, about this rivalry between Liverpool and City and where it ranks against the rivalries of old, if you will. Where do you put this rivalry in terms of the quality of the players, the managers, the speed of the game? It's probably not the nastiest in terms of maybe Pizzagate and the likes we would have seen in the past with United and the Arsenals. Where do you rank this rivalry, and what do you think defines it?
The rivalry is the best rivalry in football history. I don't even see it. It's not even a debate. These two teams are going toe for toe, year in, year out, for the title. The punch tally, what they're getting, is off the charts. I watched Jamie Carragher at the nail on the head a while ago, and I was watching him. A draw is a disaster.
It's a defeat now, isn't it?
It's more than a defeat, and you're like, really? You've just drew a game, but a draw hands the title to the other team. That's how good these teams are. I think I read somewhere the other day, I might be wrong, Jamie, but it's 52 games now since one of these teams lost a game. I don't know whether it must have been between them, but it was like a 52, and you're thinking, it's incredible. These teams do not get beat, or they do not drop any points at all. And I know what you're saying about the Arsenals and the Man United sides back then, and he was great, but football's changed. You can't do that now. You can't go around kicking shite out of each other. Unfortunately, that part of the game I loved, but it's changed. It's faster, it's quicker, it's more aggressive. And I just think, would this Liverpool side beat that Arsenal side, or beat that United side? Now, I know you could, but for me, absolutely, mate. They wouldn't be able to live with this Liverpool side, and they wouldn't be able to live with the Man City side. They just couldn't.
Do you think the game's evolved that much, Al? Do you think it's evolved that much?
It has, mate. It's like, you watch these players like Mane and Salah, and I love watching Mahrez and Kevin De Bruyne. They're just like, they're not even machines, mate. They're like robots. It's like the freaks of nature, these players. It's like,
the thing that stood out to me whenever I watched that Liverpool City game, and you'll know this, obviously having played in the Premier League and been a defender. And by the way, I have to say, you've probably seen my bracelets here. For those that are going to watch this on YouTube, these were made by my kids. It's not a new fashion statement that I'm looking for. Just caught a glimpse of these lovely shiny bracelets I've got on. I always look at the Liverpool City games and I love them. Don't get me wrong. It's a brilliant rivalry. I want Liverpool to win. Obviously, there's nerves, but from a footballing perspective, I look at the high lines, right? And you got Liverpool's defence all the way up the pitch. You've got City's defence all the way up the pitch. The risk reward, like, can you imagine Tank being a left back and being all the way up there, looking at that space in behind you, and you got Mane and Salah looking to run in beyond you? You'd shit yourself.
Oh, listen, I played with Matty Elliott and Jerry Taggart, and I'm telling you now, if we were outside our 18-yard box, we're doing well, and that's when we're attacking. So, I mean, honestly, you do. I mean, I've been vocal about this with you. Like, it drives me mad the way Liverpool does it. But you look at all of the stats and the amount of times that Liverpool win the ball higher up the pitch because of this high line. It's like they're that good. They're like, we'll give you 1 or 2 chances going that way per game, no problem at all. But we'll probably score 4 or 5 against you because we'll win the ball that high. And I think an example of that was the semi-final against Man City. I mean, the amount of times we won the ball off them in, like, say, from their touchline to 25 yards out, it was incredible. We were just swamped all over them. And that's the first time I thought, yeah, I understand why you're doing this now. You're just saturating the opposition. You're strangling them. But would I like to play in the high line? I was fucking quick, mate, but I'd still feel like, whoa.
Just the thought of Jerry Taggart and Matt Elliott looking around on the halfway line. Thinking...
They'd be fighting. Tags would be fighting. I used to go forward and he's like, get the fuck back here, you.
I love it. Right. We're gonna move on to the top 4, right? Because there's a couple of things that I want to touch on. And obviously, Christy, being a big Arsenal fan, isn't here to talk about his beloved Arsenal. But obviously, they put themselves in a great position now with a win over Manchester United. Who do you have as your favourites for the top 4 spot? It's kind of been, it's not, I was going to say who blinks first, but it's been at times like nobody actually wants that top 4 spot the way they've been playing.
It's like, it's the most unwanted spot in football. They're like, the amount of game, like you see Tottenham and you think they're having the right go now, and then they get beat by Brighton, was it at home, and then they put in the stinker against, was it Brentford, am I right in thinking?
Yeah.
I think it was Brentford, and you're like, they don't want it. Then Arsenal, all of a sudden, you look at Arsenal, you think, he's got them right at it, and they'll get beat 2 or 3 games on the bounce, and the only one you can rule out is United. They've got 0 chance. So I do think I think Tottenham and Arsenal will get it.
It's a weird one because I look at the United situation, and if you were to look at the type of players, if you were to look at the stature of the clubs, I cannot understand for the life of me how it's got so bad at Manchester United. But then you hear these stories they're getting leaked week after week. Week after week, you've had multiple managers thrown under the bus now. They've tried different systems, different approaches. Is it just a case of a bad culture and a bad set of players? And you'll know it better than most, a bad dressing room, Tank.
The dressing room must be awful. I mean, I seen the comments from Paul Scholes about Jesse Lingard. Now, Jesse Lingard, if they're speaking like that, we speak off camera and say, is there anything off limits? And that we're like, yeah, but just so back on that. And so Paul Scholes would have asked Jesse Lingard, can I say something? And he would have said, yeah, no problem. I'm out of contact anyway. So it's just, for me, it's a poisonous dressing room at the minute. And you could just see no one's together, the club's disjointed, and it's in a mess. And I'm surprised that the new manager's actually took the job, because he's got a good number at Ajax, and he's always going to be there or thereabouts in their league. There's no real massive pressure because they don't spend big money. I think Man United's a monstrous job for someone to come and do, and I don't really see how he's going to change it, because if they're not going to get top 4, I mean, let's be honest with you, there's only 1 spot left, and they're a country mile from it. Who are they going to do? Who's going to want to go to Man U? Seriously, no matter, they can pay the wages, but who's going to want to go to Man U and say, yeah, I fancy a bit of that? If you've got a choice of like Arsenal, Tottenham, or West Ham or somewhere, you'd rather go to West Ham than Man U.
I see. The weird thing is, when I look at it, right, they need a root and branch job done at that club. And look, you're looking at Ten Hag. I have to say I've been really impressed with the job that he's done at Ajax. He looks like a coach with a very clear identity. You know, the stuff I've listened to in terms of how he works with players. From that perspective, I think it's exactly what Manchester United need. I think the biggest challenge, though, is how long will he be given? What does success look like in 2 years? Like a Manchester United fan's going to sit back and go, do you know what? Next season, if we get top four, you know, that's success for Manchester United, because that, I think, you know, Liverpool have been in a similar situation. I think that was the biggest adjustment for Liverpool, was that resetting of expectations, nearly, of fans to go, do you know what? We're actually miles away here. Top four, take our medicine, building blocks. We're not competing for the title for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons, which in my opinion, it could take United. And then you've got to look at it and say, well, okay, we need to get players out. So, if my honest opinion now, as an outsider looking in, Paul Pogba is everything that's wrong with Manchester United. Harry Maguire needs to go. I think Harry Maguire is a decent. You used the example perfectly before of Taggart and Elliott, right? If you're defending your 18-yard box, Harry Maguire is a solid defender. Yeah. But if you're pushing Harry Maguire up the pitch and expecting him to defend space in behind, he's like a fish out of water. I think he's a problem. I actually, and we'll bring up your mate, I actually think one of the biggest problems is Bruno Fernandes. And I look at Bruno Fernandes, I think he's a luxury player. You've been very vocal on this. I think when you set up a team to get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, you know, he can deliver. But the petulance, the throwing the arms around, I think Ten Hag has to look at this squad and get rid of some very, very big players before he even starts to look at a playing style and a recruitment. What do you think?
The problem with United's got, Jamie, is how are you going to get rid of Harry Maguire? How are you going to get rid of Bruno Fernandes? I've said from day one about Bruno Fernandes, and when he was scoring 16, 17, 18 goals a season, he's a cheat. He's a cheat, and he's not a team player, and he affects the team in a negative way. Now, I've been.
Do you mean cheat as in he only runs one? He only runs one way. The defensive side of the game, yeah.
He had this in Portugal where he was the main man, and he basically was like, "You do what you do. Everybody else get the ball to him and do his running for him." Now, I've never thought he was good enough to do that. Portugal to the Premier League, a different kettle of fish. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer allows him to do whatever he wants. We've seen details of him, and I've said to you, he's the amount of balls where he kicks out a play or gives away with bad passes and just like basic, really pathetic play. But then he might score an unbelievable goal, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's unbelievable." And I'm like, "Well, he's not. You know, he's not unbelievable because he's given about 24 passes away in this game." But he gets in positions where people don't mark him because he's cheating and he scores a goal. Now, for a 50, 60 million pound player, I want a bit more than a cheat. And I've been, you know, how vocal I've been on this lad for a long time. He's just a luxury player. And I think I'm now being proved right because he's one of United's biggest problems. He's being asked to play centre midfield as a 3 or out wide, but do have a role and be disciplined under this new United manager. And he's been found out. He's awful. He's one of the worst United players every single game. Now, the issue with him, Jamie, I know you're saying this new manager may come in. He's just signed a new deal for 300 grand a week, Fernandes. So if the new manager comes in and goes, you know, he's not my cup of tea, where's he going? Where is he going? Because they can't pay. It's like De Gea. If you remember Mourinho with the roof over De Gea when he signed a new £350,000 a week deal, when he was possibly one of the worst goalkeepers in the Premier League at that time.
What does success look like for Man United now? You know, if Ten Hag comes in, you know, next season, you know, realistically, who do you think they could go out and get? If you asked me, I'd sell the houses to try and get Declan Rice in. I think he's exactly what Manchester United need. Who do you think is a realistic target, and what do you think is a realistic target in terms of where they finish?
Why would Declan Rice want to go to Man United? That's the other problem. This lad for me I think he's top draw. I don't think he'd look out of place in the Liverpool shirt. I think he's that good. He's got everything in his game. Why would he want to go to Man United? You know, no disrespect to him.
I think that they've not still got an allure to these players. You know, Declan Rice, who, you know, is I would assume have ambitions to go on and potentially captain England. You know, play consistent European football. I know I've just said that, and United probably won't be in the Champions League next year. But you know, this is Manchester United. It is a big step up. It's a massive club, still one of the biggest in the world. You don't think they have the same pull?
No, I don't think they have the same pull at all, Jamie. I mean, you've just said that Declan Rice wants to leave Crystal Palace, West Ham, to play Champions League football. West Ham and Man United, they're not going to be playing Champions League football next season. But I'm looking at that West Ham side and that United side now with the issues, what's surrounding the club, the problems, the new manager. This is the third or fourth new manager they've had in God knows how long. If I'm Declan Rice, Man United's the last club I'll go to. I'll be sitting there hoping that Man City come in, Liverpool come in, a Chelsea come in, if new ones come in today. That's what I'm looking at. I certainly wouldn't be, telling my agents, yeah, go and see what Man United offer. Not a chance. I mean,
you know what's funny as well? Sorry, mate.
Go on, sorry, mate. No, go on.
I was just going to say as well, if you look at the likes of Sancho, who come with massive expectations, you look at the likes of Pogba, come with undoubted talent, whatever else you think about Paul Pogba, he technically has ability. You look at how the careers of trajectory of these players, Sancho's only been there a wet day, and he looks half the player he was.
Exactly.
If you're the likes of a Declan Rice, you're looking at it thinking, Jesus, I'm not sure I can play that game of roulette with my career,
Well, that's it. I mean, Jordan, anyone with half a brain that knows that Jordan Sancho must be regretting that move to United. One, he doesn't play all that often. Two, he looks, as you've just said, he's a shadow of the player who's at Borussia. I watched him at Borussia Dortmund, was like, Jesus, this boy's special. And we've seen little tiny flashes of it every now and then. So I think they're a club who's going to have big, big problems, I'm being honest with you. You look at the age of the team as well, Jamie. They're a very, very old team.
If I was a betting man now, Tanko, I'm going to have to put your neck on the line. Who gets top four and who gets the Premier League over the line?
Who wins the Premier League?
Yeah, who wins the Premier League?
Liverpool.
Top four?
Top four, obviously Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and I'm going to go with Arsenal.
Oh, you've made Christie very happy. To be fair as well, you got to give Arteta a tip of the cap. A tip of the cap.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say probably looking at those sides competing. Arsenal, Tottenham, United, West Ham have fell away a little bit. I'd say Arsenal probably have the clearest identity. It's an Arsenal side. It's a young side. They're going to build. And I think it'd be interesting to see what he can do. Champions League back at the Emirates, a bit of money, bit of an investment, see how he can kick on. I have to say, I've been impressed with Mikel Arteta. What about yourself?
I think he's done unbelievable. I mean, you look early on in the season, he was getting questions because they were near the foot of the table, I think it was this season. But he's never changed his philosophy or identity. And this is where I'm not going on about Man U again, but this is where, even under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we were like, how does he play? Arteta's got his philosophy, he's got a style of play, and he's stuck to it. Whether he's getting results or not, he's stuck to the belief of how he wants to play. And I think they're a proper exciting, the young squad. You look at that front three, you beat Chelsea the other day, and you're like, these are only 20, 21-year-old kids who were like ripping Chelsea to shreds in some areas. I think he's got to be if he gets Champions League, I think it's as good a job as anyone's done in the Premier League. I honestly do. Right,
before we wrap up, Tank, right? I want to finish on one final topic, which is something close to my heart at the moment, because I don't know about you, but I found it incredibly frustrating this season, more than others, is the standard of punditry that is out there at the moment. And you haven't been on Twitter for a while, but when you before you made an exit, you used to lock horns with a few pundits every now and then. What do you make of the level of punditry? Because to name a few at the moment, you've got some interesting characters on TalkSport. Kenny Cunningham, over here in Ireland. I mean, some of the shouts that he's made are absolutely bananas. Gary Neville, who I think is incredible at his job, seems to be a little too emotional when it comes to Manchester United, and that probably blinds his ability to be, unbiased. I think Carragher gets a lot of stick. I think Everton fans are calling his commentary, after the derby. What do you make of the level of punditry at the moment? Are there any particular pundits that stand out for you in a good or a bad way?
Yeah, the level of it's shit, if I'm being honest. I watched TalkSport the other day, and I did I send it to you? I don't know. I don't think I did send it to you. It was Trevor Sinclair with Simon Jordan and on TalkSport. I mean, come on. I mean, he talk about clueless. He's arguing, saying that Man City have not bought anything or anyone, and he was actually ending up arguing against himself by the end of the conversation. I'm like, is this fella for real here? And I've seen some of the comments with Kenny Cunningham and, Gary Neville's comments shocked me. I do like Gary Neville. I think he's top draw. But when you watch him and he's saying the kid who's coming round trying to top people for Man United, and he's like, I'm proud of him. I'm like, fucking hell, really? That makes you proud? Is that where Man you are now? That you're hoping that he might break a Liverpool player's leg because he's a United lad who showed a bit. I don't think Carragher should comment on games. I don't think that's his bag, if I'm being honest with you.
You think he's better Monday Night Football?
I think he's Monday Night Football in the studio. I like him there. And don't even get me started on Martin Tyler. Because I'll get banned from it. I'll get banned from this from you.
No, this is a safe space, mate. Even you. Well, actually, you probably could get back. No, you won't. But I don't know. It seems weird for me because I don't want to see. I just feel like a lot of pundits are searching for headlines now, rather than having somebody come in who is not necessarily articulate, but you just want to get a sense of their personality. You want to learn something from somebody. Like I always like when we have our chats and you're able to, you go back into your career and you tell us stories about behind the scenes stuff that we wouldn't be privy to, whether that's dressing room, tactical, insight into the psyches of the managers and the players, or, from a tactical perspective, you see somebody come in and they're breaking down the tactics like Carragher and Neville on Monday Night Football do excellently. But there just seems at the moment this clamour for shocking headlines and jumping on the biggest stories and trying to be controversial. Like I seen Trevor Sinclair yesterday, who cannot take his City glasses off, and he's basically trying to claim that Liverpool were given the points against Everton and how it's an outrage. And you only have to go back a few games to when Manchester City got the horrendous decision in their favour against Everton, the handball.
Yeah,
you have to look at the Wolves game where it was the handball, I think, against Moutinho. These games literally gave City 6 points. I just feel like a lot of pundits need to take a step back and maybe look at it and go, do you know what? I've got to try and be objective here. But it just seems like there's a big gap in the market for a really well-informed, level-headed pundit, which is where you come in, Tank. You're always a level-headed.
The problem I have, mate, is I swear, don't I, Jamie?
You do swear, mate, yeah.
It just flows out.
I swear to God.
The best thing of it is my Twitter got banned because they can't go back and say, well, he said this on Twitter because it's gone now.
Do you know what? If there's two things you're known for, and I have a 10-year-old son, and even he knows now, right? So if I open a video anywhere in the house, and everyone listening knows the video. It's the sex noise video. You could be watching something, and then all of a sudden she starts screaming. My kids even know that you've sent me the video. Yeah. And the other one is, if I ever open a voice note, every third word, without fail, is a swear word. And it's got to the point now where my son actually just listens to it. It's like, oh, Al again, is it that?
I know, do you know what? It's terrible, mate, but I won't care, but listen, it is what it is, mate.
It is what it is. One final thing before we finish. How's Jack's footy going? He's doing well at Burnley.
Yeah, do you know, he had a tough time, mate. He stopped playing for a while, but he come back, and I actually, for the first time in my life, mate, not the first time, for a long time, actually shed a tear when he got his scholar. He got scholared at Burnley.
How did he break the news to you? Were you there?
Yeah, it was on a Zoom because the lockdown, obviously, but honestly, mate, I've never been as proud as him as I was, because he come back, he only had basically got told, we've signed players from Man United, we've got kids in from Liverpool, because he never went training for 2 years. And I actually sat down with him and went, listen, son, you got your work cut out here. I said, because these have been playing for 2 years while you haven't. He's literally not kicked the ball, Jamie. He'd not kicked the ball, mate. Kept fit because my daughter's a fitness fanatic, so we kept ticking over. Done no football, no running, never. I couldn't even get him in the garden to trap a bag of a ball and nothing. So I said, you got your work cut out, you've got like 6 months. Went back, and the club were like, fucking hell, he's right at it, And then he played his first game at Leeds after being back 3 weeks, absolutely ran the show, set a couple of goals up, blew up after 55 minutes, brought him off, and I was like, wow. And then all of a sudden, mate, he's just gone on and on and on. And I'm proud of him, because he just said, when I told him about the players he got in, he went, I just moved them out my way. Don't worry, Dad. And I was like, wow, okay. Now, mate, he's just turned. I mean, he's just touching 6'1". He's built like a brick shit house. He's got his 2-year scholar, and he can't wait to go in the summer, mate.
I love it. And what about yourself, mate? Because we've had this conversation a lot. You've not got the itch to get back into the game at all now.
No, mate. I look at. Without going into too much details, I've done all of the academy stuff, and I used to love the academy, and I used to get on great with all the kids. But I was there to get the kids better and make them better and try and help them and guide them with what knowledge I had and just pass them on to them. I wasn't trying to rewrite the book or nothing. But a problem with me with academies is most people in academies are trying to better themselves and not the kids, and I struggle with that. I struggle with it, so that's why I come out of it. To be honest with you.
Yeah, me and Christy, the behind the scenes are definitely team tank and trying to get back into the game. A couple of bad experiences don't define the rest of the clubs. It'd be a shame if you didn't get back in.
Yeah, no, listen, maybe one day I'll come back into it, but for the time being as well, I've wanted to try and get Jack back and support Jack, and then we had the lockdown, and maybe in 12 months' time, when Jack's telling me that he doesn't want me to take him anywhere in the football, he's got his own car, I might get back into it.
Or we could see you next to your mate Gabby Abonlahor on TalkSport, mate. You could be you could be on that.
Listen, I don't mean to be funny. We forgot him. He is the worst out of them all. I had a Twitter argument with him before I got kicked
I remember. Off. Let's not revisit some of the comments, mate. But I do remember it. We were doing well here. Yeah, let's leave it. Let's leave it there. But mate, we're back. We've got the first one in the can. Brilliant. We'll have Christy back with us. No, it's good to get us back. And for anyone that has been contacting us, while we've been away, thank you all for your support. We're going to try and give this a crack again. People seem to enjoy it last time around, so we're going to give it a whirl. So if you're listening now, whether that's on the podcast or you're going to be watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it. And if you can share it on your social media, that would be a massive help for us. We're only small, so the more listeners that can help us spread the word and help more people get involved and have a laugh with us, that would be massively appreciated by all of us. So with that, thanks for your time, mate.
Cheers,
You'll be back with us next week. You'll be back with us next week. Good man.
Oh, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you, everyone. Look after yourselves. As Tank said, it will be me, him, and Christy will be back with you next week. But until then, have a great week. Mind yourselves, and we'll be back with you again on the Boot Room podcast. All the best.
Cheers, mate.